Welcome everyone to L2R2 PlayStation Podcast. My name is Fonzie. I'm joined by my co-host, indie game dev, and my UK bruv from another mum, Callum Monroe. Callum, how are you?
Yeah, I'm better now. I've had a very stressful day, which I was just telling you about. But yeah, no, I feel all right. I feel like I'm losing my voice, so sorry if my voice breaks. I think I might finally be hitting puberty. So
yeah, you're a grown boy, Callum, so I understand.
Yeah. So if you hear any sort of high pitched moments in my voice, it's just it's just life.
You mentioned the stress you've been through. I'm feeling that a little bit now. We were talking about diet too before the podcast. I had Taco Bell last night, and I'm feeling like some deep sea bottom of the ocean floor rumblings in my stomach. So we'll see if I also get through it. Do you guys have Taco Bell over there? Is that a thing, or is that just in US?
Yeah, we do as of quite recently. I'd probably say the last maybe 2 or 3 years. Well, it might be longer. I mean, COVID sort of added a year that doesn't exist, so maybe 4 years or so ago. But yeah, they're not. I mean, I've had Taco Bell plenty of times in America, and it is definitely put your toilet roll in the fridge kind of food. But over here, it's not. Oh yeah, it's really, and freezer if need be as well. But now over here, it's not. Everything is just smaller and just less. I mean, like we were saying, the UK just don't quite understand how to do unhealthy food as good as the America does. So when you go to your Taco Bells or even like your McDonald's and KFCs and things like that, we're just very boring. Like our large is just like our large cups are probably about that big. You know, they're not like these huge things. And so we don't often need to worry too much about the downstairs problems after Taco Bell. Although there are definitely times where that is the case.
If you're not worried about your downstairs, Callum, you're not free. So that's why that's our main pride here in the U.S. is like as you're on the toilet, you salute and you just think that you have that as an option.
Yeah.
But, so your stress was different. So the PS5 has launched in the UK. Run me through that whole thing. And like, I know for us, it was launching. Well, we had a shit show too, like with how they launched the pre-orders. But what was your experience trying to get one today?
So yeah, the pre-orders were a problem as well, just because there was no communication. Obviously, the problem with scalpers as well, just rinsing dry all of the stock. And yeah, once again, it was just a complete shambles. It was just complete incompetence from everybody involved. None of the companies communicated at all what they were doing, and even if they did tell you what time the stock was, available to buy, that time wasn't correct. We had Curry's, who you were saying about earlier, who had a problem where their stock went live too early. So when people started buying the stock, as you do when you see they're available, people had their orders cancelled, and then the refund processes had to go underway, which obviously isn't good when you're trying to buy a PS5 because refunds aren't instant. So that wasn't good. And to make it worse, when they were about to actually sell the stock that they had accidentally let go early, they announced that they don't actually have any PS5s. So I have no idea how that works. It was just ridiculous, and every other company, their websites just died as soon as stock went live. It seems that they didn't know that the PS5s were coming out today. They weren't expecting this much traffic or something, or these big billionaire CEOs can't afford to invest some money into their IT teams. But yeah, it was a real just shit show. And yeah, I mean, I was up from about 5 a.m. this morning because I knew that if I don't get one today, I probably won't get one till next year. I didn't get one till about maybe 1 or 2 o'clock, and that was thanks to Amazon Germany. So I paid in euros, and it's coming from Germany. And so yeah, it's sort of a strange way to get one, but I had to do what I could because it literally did get that desperate with how things were being handled.
Dang. So is there any issues going through Amazon Germany? Like, is it just like a longer wait time, or is it, you're able to kind of just still shop, outside of your region?
Yeah. So Amazon were my main sort of the main company I wanted to go for, just because, you know, they're a huge company, even though all these other ones are, and they shouldn't have had these problems because of their size and the amount of money they have. But I knew that Amazon would probably not break. They're probably used to this kind of traffic.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's easy to use. I've got an Amazon Prime account. It's all one-click buy, all nice and easy. But Amazon didn't go live when they said they did. So it was just a matter of refreshing for literally like an hour and a half until they finally came on. And when they did come on, it just didn't work. You'd put it in your basket, it'd say there's a problem. And obviously, because there's so many of these things leaving the shelves. So I missed Amazon there, and then like I saw an article about people going to the German Amazon, and I just saw a link in the article and I clicked on it, and it was a digital PS5. It said like 2 left in stock or something, and I just straight away went through it, bought it, and didn't even think about it. And then after I'd bought it that I was googling, you know, is it okay to order from European countries? Is everything, you know, region free and all that? But you know, I just wanted to make sure I secured one, because there was another one as well, a link which I gave to my dad, who was after one, and one of my friends, and they both bought one through this link, and I chose not to because the delivery date was 17th of December. So I thought I'll hold out, because it was quite early in. I'll hold out and, you know, see what Amazon say. And obviously, as soon as I did that, it just became a full shit show, and I thought, I've missed my chance now. You know, I've just given this link to other people who have now got a PS5 from it. And it turns out that was just a placeholder date, and my dad who ordered it from there is getting it on Saturday. Whilst my PS5's coming from Germany on the 14th of December, so I've got a while to wait.
Damn. That sucks. Although at least with your dad having it, it's like you have one that you can have access to and like still mess around with and try out. But
it's going to my brother for his Christmas present, and it's a disc.
Okay.
It's the disc one, and it comes with an extra controller as well. So I was saying to my dad, you know, I don't mind giving him the extra money and buying it off him, but I think my brother would rather have the disc one, because he's got a few PS4 games on disc. So you know, I don't mind waiting. I'm just glad I've got one, because it got to the point today where I completely thought it wouldn't be till next year I got one. So the fact I've just got one coming at all is enough for me now. It's just a bit gutting that I missed out on that opportunity, because I thought I'd risk it, because I thought I was too clever. But yeah, no, the good thing is I've got one, and the bad thing is that every single company is just terrible.
Yeah, it's this year, especially with like online stuff, and maybe there's just more demand because everyone is having to order online, but it's the same thing with the various graphics cards. So like the RTX ones, the AMD just released a couple of theirs, and it was sold out instantly. It's like it's the same kind of scenario with all this hardware where it's just hard for them to keep up, and you think they'd have the infrastructure, at least, you know, online to handle the people showing up, and then you have that plus the scalpers and bots, so it's just it's insane from the get-go. You could try, at least with your brother's PS5, his that Christmas gift, just kind of like very delicately opening it up and just, you know, playing with it. You still got a, you know, a good month, and then just close it back up, and he's none the wiser.
Pretend nothing happened. No, well, I mean, I've got a few games that I want to finish off before anyway, and you know, I'm wishfully hoping that it will come a bit earlier. But you know, there's no merit to why I should think that. It's just me being hopeful. But yeah, I think you know, there's a problem when you get the news of where's got stock available, not from the website that's selling them, from just other people who are scouring these websites. I think there's just no communication, whether that's a lack of communication from Sony to these retailers, or whether it is just the retailers being lazy and not communicating it to their customers, and then not preparing themselves for the traffic they're going to obviously get. Right. It's just a complete shambles, and it was just so frustrating trying to, you know, get these things, because it was almost like live, like I was going to these places at the exact same time as everybody else, because everybody was following the same sort of like Tech Radar on Twitter were really, really good. Just telling everyone where I had stock at what time. So there was, I couldn't have been any quicker. It was literally just the fact that these websites were breaking, and just not communicating with anybody. It was just a real frustrating few hours, really. But yeah, like I said, trying to. I think that sort of made it even sweeter when I finally got one. I think if I was to know yesterday that I'd have to be waiting till December to get a PS5, I'd be really pissed off. But after what I went through, I'm just glad that I've got one.
Right. Yeah, it makes it feel like, okay, at least I have one secured.
Yeah.
And that's, you mentioned all the issues and frustration with trying to get one, and that's us being in the know and like following the news and and making that attempt. But like, good luck to just your parents out there who just wanted to try and get one day one and walk into a store. Like my uncle works for Target, which is a huge retailer in the States. And he got on release day, he got a bunch of people walking in asking for the PS5, and he'd have to communicate to everyone like, hey, it's only online, you got to go there. And they're just like, what are you talking about? So it's like you still have a whole group of people who are used to that traditional wait in line, try and get it the day it comes out, but they have no idea what's going on. He had to also, so they had people still, even though through COVID, there were still people just waiting outside because I think they had like 2 or 3 PS5s in the entire store that they would get in from the truck. And he was telling me a story of having to break up a line, and it was at like 6 a.m. or something of a fight that happened in line over people losing their spot in line and having someone else come in, and one guy was drunk, and it was just this crazy situation. And they don't realize, oh, there's like 10 people fighting for 2 PS5s that we have here and one digital. It's like they just don't realize, but that's the thing. It's like, this is just kind of a different time to release a console. It's not what we're used to.
I think, and I mean, I think the only, because I mean, I've been rightfully negative about the retailers over here and how they've handled it, but one retailer that I've got to give props to is Game, the UK Game Stop, which are similarly to the US version of them, on their last legs, and they have been for a few years. But they handled it really, really well. And I follow a few people in the UK who went to pick up their pre-ordered PS5s from Game, which I thought was going to be a really, really sort of horrendous experience, especially with the lockdown that wasn't happening when they first pre-ordered it. But apparently it took about 30 seconds to just walk in, grab your PS5. No one was operating cashiers or anything, so it was just, you walk in, give them your number, you get given your PS5, walk out. And then they sort of came in towards the end of the day and had a really, really good selection of bundles and digital and standard PS5s. They had a really good queue system, which meant, I mean, you might have to wait for up to an hour, but it meant that people were actually getting in, getting their console and getting out. And I think that they ended up having stock for quite a few hours, to be honest, which, is a stark contrast to Amazon, which had theirs for about 15 seconds. So, I think Game deserves some props for how they've handled it. And it's quite nice to see that, they're still putting a lot of effort in, even though, they have been on their last legs for quite a while.
Yeah, I think it's vital for entities like this, like GameStop, like Game in the UK, where this is their last chance to make some money, kind of have a good year, because otherwise, everyone's going elsewhere and going online, going digital. It's like, you got to try and at least capitalize on these launches. And I don't know, the next time they're going to have this kind of attention to actually get people in stores. So just really try and capitalize on it, and hopefully it's enough to keep them going for a couple of years. But I think a lot of them are kind of on that trajectory downward, so it'll be interesting to see.
And I don't know if I said as well, just the last thing on it is, if I was able to have got it through Amazon, which I nearly did, the UK Amazon that is, I would have got it tomorrow, which is also a bitter pill to swallow, but
that's
again, I'm trying to think positive.
Yep. Well, I'll rain on your parade. I did get mine. So on Thursday after we recorded, maybe like 2-3 hours after, it showed up. And I've been playing mainly Miles. I did play Sackboy as well, and fully unboxing the thing. Like it's really chunky. Like you really have to, once you actually have it, it's like, this thing is huge. So it's sitting on top of my entertainment center just because there's nowhere else to put it. But I'm digging it. So there's been some issues, and other people have had it online, reading through like tweets and stuff, where the same things I've gone through, where my PS5 has hard crashed once. So, and a lot of it's tied to Miles. I wonder if it's just issues with Miles, but going from trying the remastered version of Spiderman, switching from that to Miles, just like hard crashed it and rebooted it. And it was kind of scary for a couple minutes, because I'm like, is this thing gonna actually wake up? And because it was like fully, almost like I just unplugged it. it got back to normal, and then maybe 4 times so far through Miles, it's just quit out of the game or just froze. But luckily, when that happens, the PS5 is so quick to boot everything up. It's like another 30 seconds, and I'm back into the game. So it's not the end of the world. But yeah, I'm playing it. I'm loving it. I've beat Miles already over the weekend.
Nice.
There's still a lot more to do, like the little side stuff, but I beat the story. And man, I'm really digging it. It's crazy fast. The DualSense itself, it's pretty dope, but it's really showing off with Sackboy, and I'll be interested to see how you feel when you play Sackboy, not Sackboy, the other one, Astro's Playroom. That's where they really try and show off the tension in the triggers and the haptic feedback and the audio. It's really showing everything off, and it's doing a good job at it. With Spider-Man, I don't know if it was really optimized for it, because they'll kind of give you a little bit of tension in the trigger, and that's about it. Like I wonder, I'll see what you think about it if you ever play that one. But I'm hearing it's just, certain games will really try and focus on those features, and some won't. I guess the new Call of Duty is really changing the triggers for like each gun and whatnot. But I'm digging it. But beyond the fact or besides the fact of the weird failures it had, just like crashing on me, beyond that, it's been pretty cool.
Yeah, I'm hopeful that they'll sort of sort all that out. And I hear that there's been a patch already to try and improve stability. So hopefully that will start be the sort of beginning or get the sort of ball rolling with that. I think it shows that, especially as a lot of the problems are with the PS4 and PS5 versions of these sort of upgraded games, I think it has shown that Xbox, their smart delivery maybe isn't just a marketing term. It is something that they have put a lot of effort into to make sure it works. And but on the other side, a lot of these multi-platform games are running better on PlayStation 5, which is a big surprise to me. I thought that they'd either be exactly the same, or if anything, the Xbox would just edge it. So it's been an interesting start to the new consoles, and it's been interesting for me to sort of look at it without having hands on with either of them. It's interesting to say about the DualSense as well. I'm really excited to try that out. I think I'm always excited to try out new controllers anyway. But I mean, that's been the biggest positive that I've heard overwhelmingly from everybody, and I'm really excited to give that a go as well. But I've been holding off on Miles Morales and Assassin's Creed, and I still will until I get mine. Just because I don't really want to ever look at my PS4 again now.
I did try out, they have that feature now, and I think it's up on the PS4 where you can stream PS5 gameplay. So I took my PS4 to another room and streamed it, and it works okay. Like, it looks maybe sub 1080p as far as like the quality, but it's streaming it. It's very responsive, and so it's just another way to, if you are in another room, you can stream your PS5 gameplay. That was a cool feature. And then you mentioned the ability with Xbox, how they kind of will naturally upgrade a lot of their games. They've done that with a couple of PS4 titles. There's Tsushima that I'm playing now on PS5, and it's almost like another game, and it's crazy how I want to say it's possible, and I need to read into it, but it's possible I'm actually getting like the true 4K quality image, because the textures and everything look crazy beautiful, aside from the frame rate, which is now at 60. It's almost like another game. I mean, this game was already crazy beautiful as it was, and so now on PS5, it's just it looks next gen. It's insane, and so I'm playing that and loving it.
One of the big games I'm really looking forward to playing on PS5 is Days Gone, because that's supposed to be incredible on there, and games like Bloodborne and even Dynasty Warriors 9, which is a really poorly received game, is apparently able to do 60 FPS 4K, and that runs at about 10 FPS on PS4, so it's quite nice to see that even these games that aren't going to be done as a sort of statement, they're just done just automatically. And I think that's where maybe the smart delivery isn't quite as impressive, because it looks like, without making a big song and dance about it, the PS5 is able to just boost the PS4 games you play on it, which is really, really exciting. Because they haven't mentioned that, but it seems to be the case, because everybody, now that people have got them, people are doing the PS5 share on all these PS4 games, talking about how they're running so much better. And again, Sony haven't mentioned anything about those games. So, but I think where this smart delivery maybe works a lot better, and where the PlayStation 5 seems to be having some issues, is when you have these games that are on that are released for both PS4 and PS5. So your Spider-Man, Miles Morales, your Call of Duty Cold War, whatever it's called, and I can't think of Assassin's Creed Valhalla, for example. I think that's where the software is maybe getting a little bit confused, and where Xbox seems to do it really seamlessly. But again, that's all software related, so hopefully that'll be ironed out. But yeah, to sort of focus on the positives, again, it's just an extra excitement that all of our PS4 games are going to run at maximum fidelity on the PS5, because I think we mentioned it before, the fact that Sony haven't talked about it makes it kind of even more enticing that it has happened, because it wasn't something we were expecting. Like I said, I'm really excited to finally finish off Days Gone. Perfect time to get back into it. Really, really exciting.
One title I'm wondering about is Last of Us 2. So it just came out. There's no mention of any kind of, at least, transition PS4 to PS5, unlocking the frame rates or anything like that. And I'm wondering if that's because they're going to try and sell it as a full-blown remastered. They did that, with PS3 to PS4. Yeah. But it's one of the most recent games. You saw Tsushima get just a free upgrade. So I'm wondering what they're going to do with that and how they do that dance, because they can't just charge you another full retail price for this remastered version when it came out, 4 months ago. I'm wondering how they're going to do that. Do they wait, a year to actually do this next gen version and couple it with the multiplayer? I'm very curious to see how they're going to do that, because it's almost like either direction you go, you're going to anger people. So how do you bundle it and make it worthwhile? Because I imagine they're going to try and charge people for this.
Yeah, I think, maybe because of how, maybe it is developer centric. So maybe the fact, going back to that Dynasty Warriors 9 example, which I think is a good example, because again, it's not a game that Sony would want to do or focus on. So perhaps it is to do with the developers putting patches into these games themselves. So maybe because it is so new, maybe Naughty Dog haven't maybe done enough work to it that they're happy with, or maybe, like you said, maybe they're holding out for a full-blown remaster. I don't know, but that's a good point. I didn't really think of Last of Us 2. I assumed it would be similar to Days Gone, unlocked slightly, or because I know it's 4K on the Pro and everything. But you make a good point. Maybe that's a sign that it is developer centric, that these smaller games that nobody really care about are getting these, free boosts, but whereas these bigger games don't seem to be getting them.
Yeah, I've held off on trying it on the PS5 because from what I've heard no one talk about it actually running any better or any kind of upgrade. So I'm thinking that they're holding out, and the question is, what's the reason? And I'm thinking it's for money, to try and sell to people, which you can. You just have to make sure it's not a crazy amount, because, we got Tsushima free upgrade and that game just came out. But I'm curious, because I do want to see that Last of Us 2 fully unlocked with frame rates and just looking beautiful. That game was already crazy beautiful, but to see it in 60 with those same visuals, I can't wait. So I'm just I just want them to figure out what they're going to charge me and let me pay for it and go that route. But
I'd hope it's a free upgrade, because I think Last of Us 1 Remastered is slightly different just because you weren't able to play the PS3 version on the PS4. So it was, and also you had so many people coming over from Xbox to PlayStation 4 as well that, it made sense to give them a way to play it, because, like every game on PS3, it would have been stranded there otherwise.
Right.
Whereas with the PS5, you can already play The Last of Us 2 on there. So, here's hoping that maybe they just need a bit more time to deliver the boost that the game warrants, and we're not going to see too much of a cash grab, because I don't think it will be like Spider-Man, where they did all these changes that warrant the extra money. I just don't think Last of Us 2 would need that. So let's hope it is a free thing, and let's hope we get to see the multiplayer soon as well.
Yeah, that's one thing I'm also interested in. You have to imagine they're hard at working on that too, but. Yeah, Cam. So we made it. We're in launch week. Well, launch week for you. I have it in my hands. I sleep with it at night, the PS5. So we can go into some of the news here. There's more news about the PS5. This was just more about the launch in the UK, the first one up here. We got London Underground taken over by PS5 with special signs and rebranded stations. This is Stephen Talibi of PushSquare.com. PlayStation 5 releases tomorrow in the UK, or today, plus other regions. And to celebrate the occasion, it's bringing the hype in the most exciting way possible, public transportation. The platform holder is pulling out all the stops in the English capital, London's underground network has been taken over by PlayStation with temporary fixtures and murals that let the whole city know that PS5 is here. Firstly, there are these amazing signs outside Oxford Circus Station using the face button symbols to brilliant effect. Callum, is this something that I guess you guys are in lockdown, but is this something you could like quickly check out, or have you heard of them taking over the subways here?
Yeah, I've seen the photos on Twitter. It looks pretty cool. I like the sort of mural, the Ratchet and Clank mural, and the sort of the signs that they've replaced. London is probably about 2 hours away from me, a drive or a train, and it's also just the worst place to go. It's just awful. So I probably wouldn't see it in the flesh, but no, it's cool. It's a nice sort of touch and just a nice little marketing thing really to have.
You mentioned it's the worst place to go. Was that before COVID or with COVID? It was just like usually just a place you avoid?
Yeah, I imagine it's probably nicer now with COVID because there's less people. But it's honestly just the busiest place just ever. Like it's just horrendous, and the London Underground more so is just packed with people, and everyone's so moody because it's England, and there's more people that live in London than live in the whole of Scotland. So that's just shows you how sort of packed it is. So yeah, I mean, it's always a good weekend out sometimes, and there's lots to see there, and it's good if you have like a gig or something. But yeah, it's not somewhere people like to go that live in England just because I suppose the novelty wears off like the first couple of times you go there.
Right.
But yeah, no, it does it really cool. And maybe if there wasn't a lockdown, that I because I'm sad enough, I would probably use that as a reason to go up and take some photos and things. But yeah, no, it is really cool. It is really cool, and I imagine it's probably quite not the easiest thing to replace those sort of underground signs as well with such like big sort of PlayStation centric things. Right.
Yeah. So the launch week is happening. The advertising is in full swing, and they're still trying to kind of mimic the normal release like they would with billboards and all that stuff. But yeah, so we got that going. Now, this one, I thought of you when I first saw this. We have PS5 Simulator is a free game for people who don't have the console yet. This is Zarmina Khan of PlayStationLifestyle.net. If you don't have the PlayStation 5 yet because it hasn't been released in your region or it has been put in severe shortage, then allow us to suggest something to hold you over. Developer Alex Grade has released a free Windows game called PS5 Simulator, thanks to GameSpot, that allows you to pretend you have the console. So I have footage going here, and it's a full-blown, first-person simulator. And it even comes complete, like you'd start off the game with getting the actual PS5 in its box outside your house. And it looks like you still set it up and find a spot for it. And it even boots up. Oh, like you have to find a plug-in as well. I'm watching footage now. You have to find an extension cord to plug in your PS5. And so Callum, you can still experience this, in the month you have to wait.
I think I might
have
to play this actually.
Yeah, and it comes with, you also have a PS4 in your house, so you can like chuck it out the window just in celebration.
Yeah, I've got the system requirements as well. You have to have Windows 10 or later, Intel, AMD or in AMD processor, rubbish graphics card, and you need to not have a PS5, and I have all of those things. So.
They should release this on PS4. I'm sure it's like takes a while to get certified and all that, but this would be dope to have ready to go.
Yeah, it would. Yeah.
But yeah, I saw that. I'm like, okay, that's awesome. Callan needs to get his hands on this.
I actually am going to give that a download and give it a go.
So now we were talking a little bit about Spider-Man. We got some news on some of the buggy stuff happening, but also the boat people have returned. So if you're familiar with them from the last one, we got from Games Radar, Connor Sheridan has the article. Spider-Man Remastered has a new Easter egg for the low poly boat people. Spider-Man Remastered pays tribute to some of the most loved NYC denizens of the first game, the unnerving yet noble boat people. While Spider-Man has plenty beautiful, even in its PS4 days, the boat people became something of a idiosyncratic mascot for the game in honor of the sacrifice they made to the twin idols of performance and optimization. Clearly, Insomniac Games didn't expect most players to head out into the water far enough to get a good look at them, especially since there aren't any buildings to swing on out there. So they brought the boat people back in their same like low poly models, and they added a little sticky note that says, "Did you miss us?" in the Miles Morales version. So thought that was pretty dope.
Yeah, it's a nice nod. I remember that being like just one of those ridiculous things that people were trying to sort of use as leverage against Spider-Man, which is funny.
Right.
But that screenshot though, it looks aside from the obvious face, the game itself looks really nice, doesn't it?
Yeah, the game is crazy beautiful. It's pretty nuts. So you have the 4K mode with the ray tracing, which is incredible, but you also have the performance. And as I got to complete Miles over the weekend, I think I played solely in performance mode because it just looks so fluid and awesome. And now, especially like coming from building my PC for the first time this year, now I kind of really favor performance over 4K stuff. And so it's the boat people are interesting because I guess, they never intended for you to get that close, but they don't change in their model because that's something it's like LOL, it's like level of detail or something where they have that ring around the player that's constantly changing the model because you're never going to get that close to it. So you don't see it. So they can kind of save hardware performance or software performance by giving that low texture model. But these never change. They just stay in their box shape and just look terrifying. But I like that they're still there.
Yeah, it's like when you'd sort of get out the map in like the old Call of Duty games and you'd realise that all the mountain ranges in the background are literally just 2D sprites.
Yep.
And things like that. But yeah, it is out of bounds, isn't it? So I mean, I don't know what people expect, but yeah, he looks very spruced up. He's looking good for the remaster. So it's all good.
Yeah, at least the textures on them are pretty high res. It's just the polygon stuff going on.
Yeah, like the wrinkles under the eyes. It looks very, very realistic.
I feel like these things look how I feel inside, so that's pretty good. So we got that, Callum. There's another little glitch here if you want to just check it out. This is happening to a lot of people. I haven't experienced this, but it is a glitch where if you bump into something, your character takes over that item. And so if you jump into or you knock into, like this person is knocked into a garbage can, so it replaces your model with the garbage can. You're able to still swing around New York as I've seen people as like a brick or snow. Yeah, it's pretty awesome. Or like this patch of ice in the tweet. Is it snow? And it's still like reflecting everything.
Snow hijacking.
Yeah,
a big patch of snow hijacking the cup.
Yeah,
that's great.
Yeah, the brick is the first one that I saw over the weekend, but it's just hilarious.
Yeah, that's so good. That I mean, they're the kind of glitches that like you wish happened to you, because if that happened to me and I'd never seen it before, I would honestly just die. Yeah,
right.
That's
awesome.
Great. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just a fun one. And it doesn't happen enough to really mess up your game, but even if it did, I wouldn't mind just continuing the game as the garbage can instead.
That's an improvement. I'd love to play as a patch of snow.
Right. So we got the next one here. We're talking about Assassin's Creed a little bit. Assassin's Creed Valhalla has the biggest launch in series history. This is Wesley LeBlanc of IGN. Hope I minimized you there for some reason. Okay. Assassin's Creed Valhalla had the biggest launch in series history, selling through more launch week units than any other entry in the franchise before it. Ubisoft announced today, a week after the launch of Assassin's Creed Valhalla on Xbox One, Series S, and X, that not only was the launch the biggest yet, but it had the biggest PC launch of all Ubisoft titles. This news comes hot on the wheels of favorable reviews for the game across the board. IGN gave it an 8 out of 10, so it's safe to say that Assassin's Creed Valhalla is a hit for Ubisoft. That's pretty nuts, because I was wondering kind of like if they're losing steam, but it seems like since that reboot with Origins, I want to say it's called, right? The Egypt one.
Yeah.
It seems like they have just been improving and getting people, getting the franchise back on track and just getting the attention and deserving it, because I feel like this new one is very highly praised. Yeah.
Yeah, it sounds like they're really, attacking the issues that people have with, had with Odyssey, and I think that's really good. I think Ubisoft have definitely shown that they've started listening to their fans a bit more ever since their, I can't even remember the name of that Tom Clancy game. It was so bad. What was it?
I'm blanking on it too.
But yeah, ever since then they came out publicly and said that they're going to delay all their games, and I know Watch Dogs Legion had some really really good praise as well. But yeah, this game looks beautiful. I mean, especially seeing like the screenshots on PS5 and on the Series X as well, it looks unbelievable. I was speaking to my sister about it because she got the PS4 version because she got her PS5 today, which I'm not jealous at all about. And she got the PS4 version, which has the free upgrade, and she said on PS4 she found it really, really buggy. So I'm hoping that she'll have a different opinion when she plays on PS5. But yeah, it looks awesome.
I know I'm reading about online on Twitter, a lot of people having issues with the Xbox Series X version. There's screen tearing and other issues that aren't plaguing the PS5 version. So I wonder if, excuse me, if that's just, this issue with Ubisoft, or if we are already going to start with this next generation with seeing that split between performance. But I feel like the Xbox Series X is so powerful. This is just a software thing. They just need to kind of optimize it and get rid of that issue. I don't think we're going to see a divergence like we did with, say, PS4 to Xbox One, seeing one underperform a little bit every time.
Yeah, no, I imagine that this is just teething problems for Xbox. It can happen at any time, really. I mean, it is definitely a shame that people, because this is a big flagship game for people getting their Xbox Series X's, and it's a shame that it's not even hitting 60 FPS at 4K, which it is on the PlayStation. The game just looks a lot brighter, a lot more vivid on the PlayStation 5 as well, from the comparisons I've seen. And yeah, of course, like you said about the screen tearing making the game unplayable for a lot of people is a real issue. But I think I don't think that can be swept under the rug or anything, but I do think that it is just teething problems. I think it could have happened either way. Just so happens that the PS5 is better optimized, it seems, for in this case, but it could have gone either way. And I mean, it's very, very early days. I haven't even got my PS5 yet. So yeah, I doubt it's anything to worry about, but it is a real shame for those who are looking forward to this and find it unplayable because of these issues.
Right. I'm sure we'll get news of a patch sometime soon for those issues. But either way, it seems like it's selling incredible amounts, so they're just right on track to to keep this franchise alive. And I wonder with this one, and I imagine there's a bunch of Easter eggs too as you play the gameplay, but what the next route would be. And I think this one leaked quite a bit. It seems like all their games, the info kind of leaks before, and I wonder which route they'll take as far as where to take the story, like what the new setting would be in the next entry in this franchise.
Yeah, I think I saw something about China, which would be really cool. There's the sort of going back to again like Dynasty Warriors, that period is always explored in fiction and sort of retelling, so that could be cool. But I think it doesn't really matter what they choose, because I think despite Origins and Odyssey having really questionable stories and characters, I think the worlds that Ubisoft are able to build in these games are really impressive and just really enjoyable to just be in. So I think even if it is a time period that maybe it doesn't have to necessarily be a time period that people know, because I think as soon as you start playing these games, it becomes a time period you want to know about. So yeah, I mean, I'm just automatically excited for the future, and really looking forward to playing this game as well. This will be sort of one of the first games I get on my PS5. So yeah, and it's really good to see how well it's selling as well, because that shows that maybe these changes that they've done to the scope of the game, making it slightly more focused and not making it so grindy perhaps, is a step in the right direction.
Right. Yeah, this one is more on my radar than the other ones have been, for sure. As we're talking, I'm wondering like where to take it in the future. I'm wondering if it's possible to, because these games always take place in some kind of simulation, like that's how you're going back to this time period, and that's the case every time. So could there be some kind of glitch in the Matrix kind of situation where you are able to merge all these different worlds together in like this weird kind of breakdown of whatever like engine that's running these like the simulation? I wonder if you could then have this world where just everything's breaking down and merging, Egypt with this mythology, with the stuff happening in Italy. Man, I'm so dumb. And then the American stuff that they were going back to. Like if they could just have this almost like the end game kind of thing where it's just everything's falling apart, but you're merging all this stuff.
I think they've got so much that they could do with it, and I think the whole Animus side of things took a big sort of tumble. But like I said, I think the fact that they clearly care so much about the time periods they're in is plenty, and it means that no matter what they choose to do, it's going to be fun. Just realised my chair's slowly going down, so I'm just going to adjust.
Is it just breaking, or is it just it can't hold your weight anymore? Like, what's going on with it?
It's just seen better days. I think the hydraulics are gone. It's missing a wheel. It's just I need a new one.
Maybe you can work on that while you wait for your PS5. Are you gonna have it set up in that same room, or like is this going somewhere else? Or are you gonna play it in there?
I'm not sure. It all depends on how it looks on the 1440p monitor.
Oh, right, because there's that drama.
Yeah, because I've heard apparently that on the more sort of sophisticated panels that it will output 4K but then downscale it, which is much more preferable to 1080p being upscaled. So yeah, hopefully it will look nice. If it looks nice, I'll probably keep it out here, maybe keep the PS4 in my bedroom or something. So yeah, it all depends on what it look. I'll try it out on my TV and on my monitor, and whichever is preferable will be the one that is chosen.
Gotcha. Well, Callum, we can go on to our next one here. We got the Game Awards nominees were announced yesterday, and so there's some interesting ones here and some we kind of expected at the same time. So let's kind of start listing our takes on these. So we got the first big one. That's really the big deal, is the game of the year. So they announced 6 titles total. Yeah. So we got Animal Crossing, New Horizons, Doom Eternal, Final Fantasy VII Remake, Ghost of Tsushima, Hades, and then Last of Us 2. What are your initial takes? Which one do you think would, as far as what you've played, or what would you kind of imagine they give this award to?
I think Last of Us 2 will win it. I think they all probably have their fans that would choose them. My personal game of the year would definitely be Final Fantasy VII Remake. It's just a phenomenal game. But yeah, I think they all have a right to be nominated. And I mean, I haven't played Doom, Animal Crossing, or Hades, but I know that people have been, absolutely raving about them. So they definitely have earned the right to be there. I'm surprised Half-Life Alyx isn't there because, again, that's a game I haven't played, but everybody I know who has played it has had nothing but superlatives to say about it. So that's the only surprising thing there. But then again, I don't know which one I'd swap out for it. So I would swap out Animal Crossing, but
yeah, I'm a little salty on this just because you mentioned Half-Life Alyx. I feel like it's kind of snubbed for Game of the Year. Now we'll go down. I don't have it listed here, but they have best VR AR game, and it is there, and of course it's gonna win that, for sure. But I feel like Half-Life was such an awesome game and transcended platforms, to where it should be there. And I wonder if their issue was, okay, a lot of people can't play this game, but is that should that be the gatekeeper? The fact that it's on a platform that's not easily accessible. Like, it should be just, it's the game, and that should be the rate that they're reviewing these on. So I'm a little salty on that. But there's a bunch of, it's just nothing but bangers up there. So you have Doom as well. I love Doom, but maybe you swap out Doom for that one. I think they will give it to, my guess is they're going to give it to Animal Crossing. Animal Crossing was absolutely huge. And the people that actually vote on this are a lot of game reviewers and people in the industry. And from what I've seen on Twitter, those same industry people have been nonstop talking about Animal Crossing and absolutely loved it. So I'm kind of thinking it will swing that direction. But if I had to choose between these, of course, mine would be Half-Life Alyx. But I would say Last of Us 2 was by and far one of the best games this year. Although Tsushima was nothing to be short about. Like, it was awesome as well. And then Hades, I have not played. I need to play it. I keep hearing it's incredibly awesome. But it will be interesting to see. So the Game Awards are December 10th, so it's pretty close. But I do think Half-Life should have been up there. But that's just my takeaway. A little salty. So we got Best Action Game. We got Half-Life Alyx here. So there's Half-Life Alyx, Hades, Doom Eternal, Neo 2, and Streets of Rage 4, which I didn't see a lot of people praising Streets of Rage 4. But what do you think about this lineup for Best Action Game?
See, not to jump the gun, but I know that Final Fantasy VII Remake has been nominated for Best RPG. I think it's better I think it'd be better suited in the action category because it's not, Final Fantasy VII's up against games like Wasteland 3 and, proper RPG games. And I think Final Fantasy VII Remake is not so much an RPG. I mean, it is a JRPG, but it's definitely more action orientated. It's so good because of how fun and well designed the combat is, and just not so much for its RPG elements. So I don't really know why Streets of Rage is in there. I haven't heard the best things about it either, I don't think, from what I remember. I don't think anybody was particularly amazed by it. I know that it sort of has a big history and everything, but I don't think. I think maybe this category could be, and I don't think Half-Life Alyx. I mean, I don't know whether there's anything else that maybe Alex could be put in, but again, I wouldn't really say Half-Life's an action game either. But again, I haven't played Alex, I could be wrong there. But I think this is just all to do with how you perceive genres, which is mostly, subjective. But sure. I don't know. That's a bit of a strange one, that one.
Did you play Neo? I feel like I remember you talking about maybe the last one. Did you play Neo 2 at all?
No, I haven't played either of them, but they're both games that I'd like to try. When I played Sekiro, that was naturally I was sort of looking at them as well. I've heard they're both absolutely brilliant. I mean, I hear a lot of people saying they prefer them to Dark Souls and Sekiro, so I'm not surprised to see Neo 2 there. They're meant to be excellent games.
Gotcha. So yeah, we'll see about that category. Now we got best game direction. So there's Final Fantasy VII, Ghost of Tsushima, Hades, Half-Life Alyx, and Last of Us Part 2. As far as direction, I don't know what my take would be on either of these. Maybe Last of Us Part 2. But I'd be interested to see what are their criteria for direction as just its own measuring stick. But what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, if it means direction by directing the player, then I think that has got to be Ghost of Tsushima from what I know surface level about the games I haven't played, because that, it's missing a HUD, yet it still allows you to, I mean, there probably isn't a game I've ever played where I felt so relaxed like I did in Ghost of Tsushima. Like, I just felt so, I could just do what I like and nothing was, waging on my choices. I could just sort of follow the wind and do what I want. And so if it means that kind of direction, I think Ghost of Tsushima is a big standout there. But if it means cinematic direction, then I don't think Last of Us 2 really has anything close to it, to be honest. But I think that's, again, it depends on what they mean by game direction.
Yeah, same. And my first instinct is to give it to Half-Life Alyx, but I'd really have to understand what they're actually looking as far as direction goes, because the way the player is kind of shuffled along and the feelings you have in Half-Life Alyx, the way they just direct you as a player was my favorite experience this year. So I'm not sure exactly what they're looking for, but so that one I feel like could be up in the air with who they decide. Best narrative. So we got 13 Sentinels. If that's correct, Final Fantasy VII remakes, Ghost of Tsushima, Hades, and Last of Us Part 2. Now, if we can boil it down, narrative is going to be the story. Best story, right, is what I'm thinking. What is your takeaway for these options?
As much as I love Ghost of Tsushima, I don't think its story is award-winning. I think, again, Wasteland 3 should definitely be up there for that. That's probably one of the best narrative games I've played this year, up there with Last of Us 2 as well. Final Fantasy VII Remake, again, it's hard with that because it is a great story, but it's, I don't know, I can't really explain, but I think you can't really argue with any of them, except I'd probably say Ghost of Tsushima. I don't think its story was a strong point at all. But I haven't actually heard of 13 Sentinels, but I might have to check that out now. But I think, again, Last of Us 2 here is the clear top dog. There's just nothing that comes close to it in terms of its narrative. I mean, again, I think in everything but Game of the Year for me, I think Last of Us 2 is a clear winner. And depending what game direction means as well, again.
Right.
But yeah, I think Last of Us 2 just runs away with anything to do with story, really.
Yeah, I would agree with that. So staying on somewhat tied to the story, we got best performance. This one I find interesting. So we have Ashley Johnson as Ellie. You have Laura Bailey as Abby from The Last of Us 2. You have Daisuke Tsuji as Jin Sakai from Ghost of Tsunami. You have Logan Cunningham as Hades in the game Hades. And then you have Najee Jeter as Miles Morales in Miles Morales Spider-Man. What are you thinking of this one? So, well, my first thoughts, and I was telling my wife, was with because I think it's obvious it's going to be something with Last of Us 2. And for me, without giving any spoilers with Last of Us 2, I think it's crazy how Laura Bailey was able to take Abby's character, and I fucking hated her in the beginning, and to the point where I wanted to not play anymore, to take that character and what they do to change it and to end the game with making me basically like want to make sure that Abby survives over Ellie. It was nuts. And like, I feel like I got to give it to her. Although how much can you pull the story away from, or the writing away from the performance? Cause I feel like the writing was maybe what made me feel that way, and maybe not 100% her performance, although it was great. It was more the writing tied to that, but regardless, what do you think about this?
Yeah, I think this is a really hard one. I don't know the Hades one, and I haven't seen the performance in Miles Morales, but obviously I remember him from the first Spider-Man game, and I thought he was excellent in that. But it's a hard one for me personally, because as much as I think Ashley Johnson and Laura Bailey were excellent, I think you're right. I think it's mostly down to the writing, the directing, and the animated as well, because they don't look like the actresses that play them. I know that especially Abby has a different body model and facial model. So I think that's more of a, I mean, again, they're world-class performances, but I think there's a lot more to that than just the performances themselves. I actually think Daisuke Tsuji as Jin Sakai was one of the best performances I saw that year. I thought he was amazing. I thought he was such a great character. The way he presents himself, it sort of helps sell the sort of ambience of the game with how calm he is. Like when you sort of go and do what are those poems called? I can't remember their names.
Oh, the haikus, right?
And the way he just the way his body language is, the way he speaks when he says the haikus. I think he sold that, again, that relaxing feeling that everything about the game gave me so well. And I think that it was just an absolutely brilliant performance. And if you see him in real life, he seems like a really like casual dude. So for him to pull off such a authentic performance like that, I think it has to go to the Daisuke as Jin Sakai, definitely.
Yeah, so this might change over time. I'm not all the way through Tsushima, so I'm maybe about 2/3 at this point. And for me, his performance kind of falls short. It might not be a product of his performance, but just he's playing this character that's very calm, composed. He's a samurai. So I feel like as far as acting goes, I'm not getting a lot of emotion, but that's also part of his deal, is that he's suppressing his emotion and not engaging. But maybe that does change a bit over time. I'm not at the end, but for me, it's just kind of like seems one note to me for the majority of the game, but we'll see if that changes. But that's my only like issue with going that route, favoring him over performances. I just didn't feel anything yet, but I'm not done with the game yet.
No, that's fair enough. I think as the game goes on, I think it's definitely the way that they have people react to him as well. I think it never feels like it's out of place, if that makes sense. You know, like there's a lot of times in games, like for example, let's say Mass Effect, for example, where the voice acting's off and people don't quite react to things how they maybe should, and it's all a bit strange. But I think that with the sort of tragedy that's going on around him, it's his sort of calmness that helps relax people and the people you help, and you really feel like you're helping the people around you with his sort of demeanor. And then also obviously there is the whole him becoming the ghost and coming away from his values, which is performed really well towards the end as well. So but yeah, again, that's probably the hardest pick for me out of them. But yeah, for me, I'd say Jin just nudges it.
And even going back to Last of Us 2 with Ellie, that's an awesome performance as Ellie, but she's also kind of the same character almost, at least on the outside. You kind of know what she's going through internally, but on the outside, she's very much the same person. And I don't get that arc or that change. So I feel like comparing her to Laura, it was an opposite where you see that arc. But yeah, it's gonna be tough, and it's gonna be interesting to see. And I loved Najee Jeter as Miles Morales, but it just wasn't anything like blow your hair back as far as acting, but it was still awesome. So we'll see. But we got Best Art Direction is the next one up. Final Fantasy VII Remake, Tsushima. We have Hades, Ori and the Will of the Wisps, and Last of Us Part 2. What do you think about these options?
This is a hard one as well. I mean, I have to say I haven't played Ori and I haven't played Hades, and I know that they're meant to both be beautiful games, so that's those two I can't really speak for. But again, Ghost of Tsushima just looks unbelievable. It is an astonishing looking game. It has a whole bunch of cosmetics that all look really, really good as well. The lack of HUD, which is made up for in the art, in the way the art is directed and done, brings a whole new sort of like dynamic to the art direction. So yeah, again, I think Ghost of Tsushima is a standout here for me as well.
Yeah, I'm going that direction as well, where I think the way Tsushima just laid, you mentioned the HUD perfectly, how they changed things on that aspect, but also the game is so incredibly beautiful. And The Last of Us 2 is so incredibly beautiful too, but I guess there's maybe more varying environments in Tsushima. They really get to show off that what they can do. With Last of Us 2, it's not as diverse, I guess, is what I'm thinking. Even though there's so much detail in Last of Us 2, it's nuts. But and then I did play Ori and the Will of the Wisp. It's on Game Pass for maybe an hour or two, and that's a beautiful game. But it reminds me a lot of the first one, and that one was also beautiful. But I wonder if it's just more of the same, although it's still a crazy good-looking game. With Hades, I know a lot of people are talking about how that, but it's also cel-shaded, so I feel like it kind of falls into stuff we've seen before. And then Final Fantasy VII Remake, I think it might be down to the remake Final Fantasy VII and Tsushima. Remake was insanely beautiful, the way they're able to bring this game back to life, and still pay homage to that original game. For me, it would be up to those two as the competitors. But I wonder if they'll, what route they'll go with. But I'm the same where I think Tsushima for sure. Yeah. So we got Best Audio Design. This one I want to bring up because it's interesting. I think it kind of gets forgotten about, but we got Doom Eternal, Half-Life Alyx, Ghost of Tsushima, Resident Evil 3, and then Last of Us Part 2. For me, it's Half-Life Alyx all the way. What are you thinking?
Is this different to soundtrack? Is this a different category, or is this the same?
I would say it's different. I think they're going by the ambiance, the sound, the use of sound in the game, and that kind of thing. Yeah.
I mean, I'd imagine Half-Life Alyx being a VR game, there'd have to be a lot more attention put into that. And I mean, being a Half-Life game, I imagine they've done that expertly. There wasn't really much about the audio design of the three of those games that I played that stood out to me. So yeah, I mean, I'll take your word for it with Half-Life there.
Yeah, with Alyx, it's just because it's VR, it's already immersive as it is, but they definitely don't drop the ball with the sound. I mean, you'll hear just every footstep, every chatter, the ambiance of the world around you, and also when it's kind of a constant thing in the Half-Life games, or at least with the second one, to have this soundtrack, this kind of like rock soundtrack kick up when there's combat, and it just makes you feel even more badass. And they do that as well in Alyx, but it just feels extra, and it just makes you feel like you're there and like you're kicking ass for the first time. Although the majority of the game is like survival horror, it's scary, and there are these few pockets of combat in there. But I would for sure give it to Alyx. Every time I played, I had to have headphones because it just felt even better playing it that way. But that was the big ones, the big picks that I took out for Game Awards for the nominees rather. But we're soon, December 10th. So one thing about the Game Awards as well, it's not just about the awards. They show off a bunch of stuff. Like last year, we got to see the Series X for the first time and other game announcements. So I can't imagine what we're going to see this time. What do you think? Could you Any picks? Do you think we'll get some more info on some games we haven't heard of in a while?
Resistance remake trilogy.
Here's hoping, man. Yeah, here's hoping.
No, I don't know. It's hard with the new gen stuff. Probably maybe some new Resident Evil gameplay. Perhaps some more Ratchet and Clank stuff. I don't know. Hopefully some new announcements as well. Maybe Last of Us 2 multiplayer, because I mean that's going to be a big attention at the Game Awards as well. So it wouldn't be shocking to see if it was a Last of Us related announcement. But yeah, hopefully something good. Hopefully Resistance trilogy, and hopefully a new Dragon Age as well. That'd be nice. And trying to think of what else I would like personally, but I can't think of anything.
Well, I think this Game Awards, it's an interesting spot because there really isn't another big announcement scheduled kind of conference for a while. I mean, there's really E3 is dead, although, there'll still be something, I'm sure, this year. But now every manufacturer's doing their own release. But now that all the consoles are out, it's kind of used this spot as to set up this next year. Okay, here's what we have to show off for next year, whether it's a teaser or full-blown gameplay. I feel like we're actually going to get, I'm thinking we're going to get a lot of announcements at the Game Awards, because now that the consoles are in our hands, it's these companies now showing us, here's the reason why you need one if you don't already have one, or most people can't. But I feel like now they're going to just unload with gameplay and just announcements, and I can't wait. I keep waiting every year so there's Cloud Chamber. I want to say the name of the studio is. It's a 2K studio. They've taken over the BioShock franchise, and they've already announced they're working on a new BioShock. That was maybe a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, but we haven't seen anything. And I'm hoping that every big event that comes around, I feel like, okay, now we got to show off at least a teaser, something to reveal it. That's my secret hope, is that we'll get to see it here. Beyond that, hopefully some Sony stuff, maybe some more Horizon gameplay, maybe a short actual hands-on gamelay. You mentioned the multiplayer Last of Us 2, maybe that. I feel like maybe it's too soon, but who knows?
God of War as well, which is apparently coming out next year, so that needs something shown. So
if we don't see that here and it's still coming out 2021, it's not coming out 2021. I have no hope that it will, but if we don't see it, I think that's for sure a good sign that it's not coming out. But maybe they show off another logo or something.
Yeah, I think if they don't show anything, it's definitely not coming out next year, and if they do, then it's also definitely not coming out next year.
Either way, it's not coming out.
Either way.
And then by then, I want to say Cyberpunk is around that same time. So around then, they really have nothing to tease for Cyberpunk. So
maybe they can tease a new release date.
Have Keanu Reeves come out again and just be like, okay, well, it's next year. But yeah, so I'm very excited. It's coming up soon. So we got some more news here we can go through. We got Hitman developer announces new Bond game, Project 007. This is Joe Screbbles of IGN. Hitman developer IO Interactive has announced Project 007, a new James Bond game, announced in a teaser trailer today. IO describes the game as a wholly original Bond story in which players will step into the shadows or step into the shows of the world's favorite secret agent to earn their 00 status in the very first Bond origin story. In active development for consoles and PC, Project 007, a working title, will be created on IO's own Glacier engine, which was used for the recent Hitman games. That engine is beautiful, so I really cannot wait for this, as they just announced it. What do you think about them taking over the Bond franchise?
Yeah, it's really exciting. I played a little bit of the first Hitman reboot. I played all the old ones as well, but I don't know how related they are anymore. But I've got a friend who loves Hitman, loves the new games, and he raves about the story in them as well. So they've obviously got some storytelling chops on them, and I think Hitman's kind of style would suit James Bond as well. That sort of secretive, sneaking around, and just being a sneaky prick, I think will be really good for James Bond. So it's really exciting. It'd be nice to have a sort of origin story as well, because I think Bond's always quite confusing with how it works and why he is actually 5 different men. So it would be quite very interesting.
Yeah, I'm super stoked. Me and my wife, we love the James Bond franchise, especially the newer ones with like Daniel Craig. Man, he can get it. He's awesome. And so like the idea of them going back, and this is going to be a completely different Bond. I just love this world. And so I can't wait for them to jump in and not have to work it with the movies, just be able to create their own thing. and maybe even switch up Bond a little bit, whatever that means, like do something different with Bond. But to actually walk around and live in that world with the agency, like I can't wait for this.
Yeah, really, really cool.
Nice. So we got that announced today. We got some more Cyberpunk news. And so we got Cyberpunk 2077 will seemingly be 70 gigabytes minimum on PS4, come on 2 discs. So this is Joe Screbbles of IGN. Seemingly leaked packaging appears to show that Cyberpunk 2077 will come in at a minimum of 70 gigabytes on PS4, with its physical edition arriving with 2 discs. Images of what appear to be the PS4 edition have been posted by Reddit user Mikey Morphin. The back of the PS4 edition shows that the game will take up a 70 gigabyte minimum on PS4. So Cam, I bring this up really just because we got more footage a couple days ago of Cyberpunk running on console. So this is on Series X and Series in Xbox One X, and then we have that new Nightwire that's actually later today. But how do you feel about them coming on 2 discs? I feel like that does happen for these huge releases.
Yeah, I think 70 gigs about right, about expected for a game like this. I mean, it's a lot of gigabytes for a game that probably doesn't even exist and will never come out. But I think for the hypothetical idea of what Cyberpunk is meant to be, I think 70 gigs is about right. I think that's like Red Dead 2 territory, isn't it? So yeah, so I think that's about understandable. Still not quite as big as Call of Duty, which I'll never understand.
Did Final Fantasy VII Remake come out release on 2 discs? I feel like that one recently did.
I don't know. I mean, because I'm not a caveman, I don't buy discs anymore. So.
Right.
but no, I feel like it might have actually. I think it was probably around that many gigs as well. A lot of textures, big open world. But yeah, I think that it's just as games get bigger and discs don't sort of get bigger, it's gonna happen. And I think it's irritating having to, I mean, it reminds me of like when you used to have to install games on like your computer and you'd have like 4 discs and they would ask you to insert disc 2 and disc 3. So yeah, I mean, you know what I think about discs, so.
Now, I'm not sure if you got to watch any of the footage that they released, but of course it's Xbox footage, but they show it off on, a current gen console running the series, the One X version, and it looks pretty awesome. Like it's able to handle console hardware, and then of course it looks better on the Series X. But I think we'll experience the same thing on PlayStation, where the current consoles will run it just fine. Maybe a lower frame rate, less or no ray tracing, but I feel like it's becoming more real, where it's actually going to be runnable across all these 9 platforms they're releasing.
Yeah, I think I mean I'm sure it'll run fine. I mean, it better with all the delays they've had to do, which is supposedly for this exact thing. I think we'll see how it goes, and I think it's just very hard for me personally, who I don't really have much affiliation with CD Projekt Red. I've never really got into the Witcher games, and I think Cyberpunk looks good, but I think after a while it just becomes very hard to be excited for something that you've just heard so much about and never actually really seen or know if it's even coming. But yeah, I mean, I'm sure when I do finally play, I think I'll probably get it on PC. But yeah, I'm looking forward to playing it, but I think it's just quite hard to be excited for at times.
Gotcha. I'm sorry, Kyle, my dog's deciding to throw up in the corner there, so I was looking at her for a second.
Oh well, I mean, you're preoccupied, so it's not your problem.
She's also upset about this game never coming out. That's why she's throwing up.
Yeah, she's throwing up because she has to hear the word cyberpunk for the 400th time.
Alrighty, Callum. So now we've arrived at talking about the PS4 games of 2020. What are your top 3 favorite PS4 games that released this year?
So I think I personally think it's been a really, really good year. I think my top 3 games are all games that stand out for the entire generation, if not every generation. I think they've all sort of made, when a game comes along and you feel like a sort of unique way when you're playing it, and I think all 3 of them were able to do that. But I think number 3 would probably be Ghost of Tsushima. I think it was really easy to play. As in there, I never felt like, oh, I can't be bothered to do this bit, or oh, I can't be bothered to go and play that. It was just so relaxing and enjoyable, and just a joy to play. It really was. It was just, it wasn't irritating. It never felt like grindy or anything like that. It was just always a pleasure. And I think that's really difficult to do. And I think that's all down to just a really great collective understanding of what they were trying to achieve, which I think is really clear to see. And although I didn't really get into the Legends mode, I think it's amazing that they did that. And I think that that just owes it even more sort of credence to sort of the quality of the game. But did you want me to go through all 3 of them now, or did you want to go through your third one?
That one we do share. As far as
Okay.
that one's in my second spot, but yeah, I
Yeah.
share the same feelings. Where and I was late to the game, where I've just picked it up maybe 2 weeks ago now, playing through it again, and after playing the first 2 hours and just kind of not having the bug, it's bit me now in the ass, and like I'm loving it. I'm loving it on PS5 now too.
Yeah.
And it's just the gameplay is perfect. What was that?
I said, yeah, all right. No need to brag about your PS5.
Yeah, it's just PS5 is great. I love life. But yeah, like just the feeling of being a samurai, you just feel badass when you complete these little fight sequences, when you call out people and you just take them out, and they're just, still holding your stance as the guys are kind of slowly falling over. I love that. And now I've unlocked the ability to kind of scare other people, as I should have been from the get-go, but now like I'll scare other NPCs when they see me, other enemies, because they just saw me cut their main dude's head off. And it's just like that feeling alone as well. The world is beautiful, man. Yeah, I really do love this game, but I was kind of late to it.
Yeah, it's awesome. And I think you got to give it to Sucker Punch for being able to make something so different but so just well executed. I think that's the best way to think of Ghost of Tsushima. It's just, it does everything perfectly. Nothing feels out of place. Nothing feels because these teams are big. It's hard to make sure that everybody is on the same wavelength, and that's Ghost of Tsushima all over. It's just everything is on the exact same wavelength, and it just delivers something that feels so. You just feel like you know exactly what they were going for, or I definitely did anyway. And I thought it was just brilliant.
Yeah, same here. What was your next one? Next PS4 game of 2020?
Number 2 is Last of Us Part 2, which again, that just gave me a super, super unique experience where I literally locked myself away for a weekend and just didn't put it down until I finished it. Which, there's not many games. I mean, I could probably count on one hand the amount of games that can do that to me. I just played it straight through all the way to the end as if it was a movie, because I just couldn't bear to, go away from it and not know what happens. It's such a emotion provoking game, and not just because of its themes, but because of how well written the characters are, how much you care about them, how believable they are. I mean, the outrage that we've seen over it, which has been ridiculous, obviously, but outrage like that can only happen when the setting, the characters, and the world, this fictional world that has been created, when it means that much to somebody else. So whether you agree with the directions it went in, or the things that happened and how the game actually played out, that's irrelevant. It is just an incredibly well crafted game, probably one of the best games ever made. And I think the only thing that's stopping it from being my game of the year is I don't think it has much replayability. I think a game that heavy, that like emotionally heavy, it's very difficult to play through again. I really sort of forced myself through it the second time around. And whilst the gameplay is fun and it's a lot better than the first game, which I think the first game suffered in that area slightly, I think the gameplay is top notch. But yeah, I think just when a game is that investing emotionally and does leave that much of an effect on you, it's very, very difficult to play again and enjoy it in the same way you did. So I think that's what sort of stopped it from taking the top spot for me.
Yeah, it's interesting. So that's in my top three as well. You mentioned the gameplay, and I have the same thoughts where, although I loved it, I don't feel the need to replay it again. And it's something where, because the gameplay is so tied into the story, it's almost like I'm experiencing that story again. And I think if I give it enough time, I'll want to go back and play, because I played the original, many times at this point. But that gameplay loop is fun, but it is so heavy and tied to the story so much that I think I need a long breather before I jump into it. But if you think about the last game, Tsushima, we played, it doesn't have those story strengths, but the gameplay loop is so fun. It's almost like they're opposite scenarios where they don't focus on the story, but that loop is so enticing to keep playing it. With Last of Us, it's just the opposite situation. But yeah, I feel those same thoughts. You mentioned the outrage with the story. It was funny, maybe about 2 weeks ago, I got a coffee in the drive-thru and I had a Last of Us hat on. And the girl working was like, "Oh, I love The Last of Us," and we're talking about the sequel. She's like, "Yeah, I hear something happens to Joel, so I haven't played the sequel. I don't want to play it." And I'm like, "I hear you, but like, definitely stick with it. That game is so dope." And so a lot of people out there are just when they actually played it, were very emotional about the changes they'd make to the story and to the characters. And I get it. No, I don't get the of course, like, death threats or whatever to Laura Bailey. That's bullshit. But the people are so emotionally tied to these characters for the past 8 years or whatever, so 5-7 years, to where it is a big deal that they change things up. But I think they realized that as Naughty Dog, and they did it to the point where they just fully succeeded at it. They knew they had to switch it up. You can't just provide another Last of Us situation where it's just Joel and Ellie hanging out, having fun. You still get that in the sequel, but they have to prove themselves as a studio and switch it up. And I think they absolutely nail it by making you hate characters and then grow to love them completely. And it's that alone, that arc they're able to do with the story is insane. And I feel like it'll go down as developers taking a loved characters and then just completely changing them and succeeding at it. It will go down as one of the best things accomplished in a game, in a story, in a game. It's nuts.
And I think you're saying how you played Last of Us 1 multiple times, and I did as well, and I think that is just where it does slightly fall short. I think not only is it not as enjoyable to play through again because of how heavy and dark and bleak it is throughout the entire thing, but also I just think it is a touch too long. I think the first time you play through it is fine, because you don't know what's coming, so it doesn't matter how long it is, because it's all new story and new twists, new turns, new sort of content. But when you play it that second time, there are a lot of just lulls and dull moments that you just don't want to see for the second time. So I think that's the sort of only negative really that stops it from being this top game that the first Last of Us was.
Right. Yeah, but I think it exceeds insanely high as far as the story stuff they're able to achieve, for sure. But and it's funny because like the gameplay it's still fun. It's just two things at the same time, where it's incredibly engaging and fun as you're playing it, and I like sneaking around, but at the same time, it's those same notions where it is heavy, it is dark, and I don't want to necessarily play it again. It's just very weird, like two feelings at the same time. But it is what it is. But so we have Last of Us 2. Now we're both on the same page with our picks so far for top three. Where do we diverge? What's your next one?
So my favorite game on PS4 this year, and my favorite game of the year, definitely is the Final Fantasy VII remake. It was just, again, it captivated me, so I didn't want to put it down. And it is just absolutely near flawless for me. I mean, I know it has its Japanese cheese in its writing, and it definitely has a debatable ending and a future from that as well. But the game is just phenomenal. I mean, the combat system, the music is unbelievable. The visuals, just everything about it just captivated me, and it has great end game stuff, really good new game plus stuff to sort of make it fun the second time, which is very hard to do in like a 30+ hour game. But I happily finished it on hard difficulty and got the platinum straight after finishing it. and it is. I mean, there's not really much else I can say aside from it is just near perfectly executed, for what it had to be, for what it was trying to achieve, and also for the cracks that it had to try and fill because of the previous few games. It just sort of took all of everybody's favorite things from the past few Final Fantasy games, merged them together with perfection, and yeah, it's just a really, really amazing game.
Yeah, this is one that I haven't played, so I don't really have I can't really add an opinion either way. But I did play the demo, and the demo is really fun. It's just I'm also a person that never the whole franchise never really latched on to me, so I don't have those same nostalgic connections. But at the same time, I can still respect what they did because they took this game that is beloved by so many people, so many gamers, and they're able to bring it back, update the visuals. They definitely succeeded at that, but also it seems like they made the gameplay more approachable, or the option to kind of play it with a more approachable approach. And that's also should be a testament to what they did, because it was insane to pull that off. And I know people really love this game, and yeah, I can respect what they did for sure.
Yeah, and I think one thing that's probably worth mentioning is I didn't play the original until quite recently. It was for some reason, even though it's like the biggest Final Fantasy game, one of the only Final Fantasy games I hadn't played. And I played it through all the way for the first time maybe a few years ago in preparation pretty much for the remake, which just shows how long the remake was in development for. And I didn't, and even when I'd finished it, I didn't rate it that highly. I thought it aged really badly. I didn't think the story was even that great. But the remake just, brought all of those things to life. It was able to tell the story not just through text boxes and little weird polygonal characters, but through real environments that you can look around in and really feel and get a proper sort of understanding of. And maybe I did go into it a bit too late, and maybe these are the kind of this is the kind of way it captured your imagination back then, because that was probably the top game at the time. And so I think, as somebody who struggled to really get the original, I think this allowed me to feel how those people did, in the way that this game's explored and fleshed out. And it is a very, very special game, and I recommend it to anybody. I mean, as everyone knows, Final Fantasy games aren't related, and it's just a really, really fun action RPG. Like I said, an unbelievable soundtrack, really, really fun progress system. Just everything is just top notch.
Gotcha. Yeah, I guess so that was your top three. I have one more that really my top one that I ended up awarding it to was Last of Us 2. I think overall that's my biggest, just my favorite experience this entire year on PlayStation. Yeah. But one that I think deserves mentioning is, and was my third pick, is Spider-Man Miles Morales. I guess where it gets a little dicey is Miles Morales. I played it on PS5. Excuse me. And there is the PS4 version, which is basically the same, just doesn't have the same fidelity and whatnot, doesn't have the performance mode. But man, I loved Miles Morales a lot. So I played it, basically beat it over the weekend. But I think it was more of it was the same kind of thing that I wanted coming out of Spider-Man, the original, but still updated with the new abilities. You have your Venom ability, which is like this supercharged power electrical attack, and just switching it up there. The new kind of coat of paint on New York itself, being in that winter time frame, was awesome. The story is pretty good. It's I guess not. It definitely doesn't hit the same highs as the original Spider-Man, but it's still pretty good character development, and story-wise, it is cool. I would have liked more villains to show up, but it's more of like a personal story with Miles and what he's going through. Yeah, I love Miles, and I kind of want the next one to still be able to play as him, so I'm not sure how they're going to handle that, but I loved it. The gameplay is so tight. The way you quickly get used to juggling multiple characters, blocking and dodging, and dealing with missiles coming your way, bullets coming your way, and still dealing with the heavy enemies. Like, they really nail the gameplay. It's on par with, like, say, God of War, the recent God of War, where it's just you quickly learn the mechanics and you're into it, and you just feel like you're kicking ass. I was playing with my nephew, and it's been a while since he played the last one, and he's getting beat up quick, early on. And then I leave for like an hour, he's still playing it, and he's actually mastering he's juggling people, he's dodging at the right time. It's like it quickly, teaches you along the way. in a way that's just awesome for gamers. And I think if they can take an adult and a kid and just kind of bring them through that route where they both feel confident in what they're doing, they nailed it. So just the gameplay was just a masterclass in how to kind of guide a player. But that's probably my third pick for 2020 is Miles Morales for sure.
I'm surprised. I thought Doom Eternal would be in there for sure.
Well, I kept out cross-gen games, at least initially. I love me some Doom Eternal. Oh boy. But I actually played that one on Xbox because and I waited for the Digital Foundry breakdown, and they're like, hey, it performs 5% better on Xbox One X. It's like, okay, I'm going to buy it there. And now I have it on PC where it's like, it's even better. But so those are our, PlayStation picks for the year. What are you thinking for as far as all platforms for this entire year? What was your favorite game to play?
Let me just open my Steam library.
Yeah. Do you think you're playing more PC this year?
Yeah, I think so. Well, I mean, it's hard because I think a lot of games I play as well didn't necessarily come out this year, but there is one which I talked about earlier, which is Wasteland 3.
Right.
Which was it is absolutely brilliant. I mean, it's one of the best RPGs I've ever played, period. And it surprised me so much. It was a game series I'd never touched, and it's so incredibly well written, extremely deep. It's just a really, really awesome game. It's similar to Ghost of Tsushima in the way that it just has a certain tone, and that tone is just set perfectly throughout the game. It never once strays from it. It knows exactly what it's trying to be. It's so funny. It's a really, really great game. And I'm pretty sure it's on PS4 as well. From what I know, it's quite buggy on PS4 and Xbox. But the Steam version I played, and I played the early sort of access version as I was reviewing it, and I didn't encounter any bugs or anything. But yeah, it's a really, really great game.
Yeah, I'm surprised it didn't get more attention for Game Awards. I think so it's up for RPG of the Year, but beyond that, you think it would be thrown in the narrative situation or best game of the year situation, but it looks like it's not. That's very strange. But it got great, crazy reviews when it came out.
Yeah, I think a lot of people, because it was on Xbox Game Pass, because In Exile, the guys who make it are owned by Microsoft. I think it was probably most predominantly played on Xbox, which I think is where a lot of people had issues like bugs and things. But I can tell you now the Steam version was very solid. So maybe that's why it wasn't pulled up for the Game of the Year. But in terms of best narrative and best RPG, there's no reason why it shouldn't be up there and sort of competing for the top spot in both of those categories, because it is a really, really great game. And now Microsoft have got In Exile and Obsidian. They've got arguably two of the best in the business at writing RPGs. You'd normally put BioWare up there, which again I've been really into recently, with Mass Effect and playing Dragon Age at the moment. But everyone knows what they've been like recently, so that you can't really include them up there anymore. But I'm really, really excited to see what In Exile do next. And I didn't actually get around to finishing Wasteland 3, because I reinstalled Windows and everything, so I ended up having to uninstall it. But it's a game I definitely intend to go back to. And I mean, testament to the story, I can still remember now all the characters, the story up to where I got to. It's just stuck in my head so well because of how brilliantly well it's written. And I think I mentioned it, it's so funny. And I think it's really hard for games to be funny. There's only some that really are. And, it has that really funny sort of post-apocalyptic Fallout humor, sort of Borderlands style social commentary, and it's just a really, really excellent game.
So I know traditionally with this like top-down kind of format, for some reason it never latched onto me. So that's always my first like prejudice with the game like this. And I keep hearing it's awesome, but I can't get into this just visual style or like the way you actually play it, that third person or top-down rather. Could this, just like they went with the original Fallout games, took them into a 3D world, could this be done with something like Wasteland? Would it be too Fallout like, or could there be a or first person rather version of this game, you think?
I think I think I know what you mean by how, like, you look at screenshots and things, it doesn't quite look that appetizing, but the way the game is designed and the way it plays and the way it sort of integrates its equipment system, because it's very loot based, like most RPGs are. But the way it integrates that with its progression system and leveling up all your party, it needs that strategic battle system that it has to really feel as deep as it does. And I think the whole point and click to talk and to loot things and everything, it is on paper quite jarring to think about, but like every game, as soon as you start it up, it gets you in nicely, and it's actually a really, really nice way to play. Especially on PC, it's very relaxing. Just using a mouse and keyboard, you'd have to, it allows you to really soak in the narrative, because you're not like right up against the screen, really engaged in in having to interact with everything. I really do think that style of game has just as many advantages over first person games than first person does over them. So yeah, I think you should definitely give it a go. I mean, it's really good, and I'd say it's even similar to like games like Dragon Age, because Dragon Age can be played in that perspective or third person. But the only difference is you can also move with the WASD keys in Dragon Age. So yeah, I think it's I definitely understand the sort of judgment of those kind of games just from looking at footage or looking at gameplay, because it can look a bit, not confusing maybe, but just a bit, you don't really understand what's going on with you because you're unattached from it. But as soon as you play it, it does, it's really well designed to get you into it and sort of get you understanding things straight away.
Gotcha. Yeah, it's there's a hefty list now, but that's one I need to put on there and keep an eye out for.
Well, it's free on Xbox Game Pass as well, so
I have no zero excuse now. Yeah. I mean, I'll find an excuse somehow, but alrighty. And I guess as far as game of the year for me across all platforms, it was for sure Half-Life Alyx. I mean, I built this PC for this game, which sounds insane, but like this was just so much on my radar, and I love the Half-Life franchise, and I just kept thinking there's got to be a way I can figure this thing out. If I could just like break into a Best Buy at night and just kind of hobble together a way to play this. But yeah, so I was able to do it, and with the Oculus being the cheapest route in, and it's still looking and playing awesome too. So I love it. The immersion that you experience in this game I've never felt in another game. I mean, part of it you could say the heavy lifting is because it's VR, but they don't slack on that. It's not like a gimmicky kind of experience. You feel like you're doing everything in the game. You're lifting objects, you're grabbing things physically, pushing stuff out of the way. But then the gameplay is still tight, still like on par with every other first person shooter or like a Half-Life 2 style of gameplay. And then the story is so strong. Like you have a person in your ear kind of guiding you through the game, and he's played by, I want to say his name's Rice Darby. So if you ever watched Fly the Conchords, he's their tour manager. He's this hilarious, I want to say Australian or New Zealand comedian, and he's just hilarious. And so even though the game, because the majority of the game, it's like survival horror, it's very dark and scary. That's like 90% of the game. And so he's still in your ear, kind of helping you by joking and kind of keeping you feeling like you're with someone. It helps you along the way, so you're not so just scared out of your mind. But there's that, and there's also the story element that they are able to keep doing and they're able to dip back into the Half-Life franchise, but also kind of touch and give you a way into the future, because there was such a big cliffhanger with the last one. They give you, without any spoilers, they kind of open it up to keep going in a way that like blows your fucking mind if you love Half-Life. So just that on its own. And then aside from everything, Half-Life 3 is such a huge, it's almost like a joke now. This game's never coming out, and it was, it's been 10 years or whatever. This is the first approach in that direction, and they nail it. So all they needed was that buffer room. This is that amazing buffer room to now let the pressure's off so they can actually work on a Half-Life 3, regardless of what happens in the story. They needed something successful in between, and this is that. And so now that the pressures are a little bit alleviated, they can tackle the biggest expected game ever in game history, which would be Half-Life 3. And they succeeded. They could not fail at all in this game, and they do not. And so just on that, all these different aspects alone combined to make this one of my favorite games ever, but for sure game of the year for me.
I mean even not playing it, just seeing sort of what I've seen You know, it does look unbelievable, and I do need to get around to playing it, but it's just one of those things, isn't it? Especially a VR game, and you've got to sort of proper limber up for it and get prepared.
Now our PCs are very similar in performance. So I mean, you could run this for sure. You just need to get a hold of an Oculus, and now they're even cheaper. The Oculus 2 is like $300, at least in the US, and there's still a bunch of them. It's not like hard to get. So I mean, this is very approachable for you, but you'd have to actually want it enough to commit to, because there's a lot of VR games. But like and I'll just talk to my wife about it. I haven't really picked up my Oculus since finishing Half-Life, so it was really kind of, for now, just for that game. So that's also the issue, is that unless you're a diehard VR fan, it's like there isn't going to be a lot keeping you playing VR in general. But I'm hoping that as we get more news in the upcoming years of a PSVR 2, I think that then it's possible we'll see this game come to PSVR, which will get this in the hands of so many more gamers as well.
Yeah, that would be cool. Yeah, my little brother's got a Oculus Quest, and I think, like I've said to you before,
there you go.
I'm a lot stronger than him, so I can always take that off of him and give it a go. But I think, well, I mean, with the PS5 coming, that comes with a USB-C cable, so for maximum efficiency and laziness, I might just wait for that and then plug my Quest into my PC that way. So I'm calling it my Quest already, aren't I?
Yeah, but as far as game of the year, for sure, I would absolutely give it Half-Life, and I can't wait to see, now that franchise is it's alive now, and there's a possibility to keep going into it and get Gordon back in there and to keep going with the story. Like, I just cannot wait. Yeah, very, very exciting. Yeah, I'm really excited to give it a go, and and going back to the Game of the Year awards, it does seem strange that it's not up there for the big one. Yeah, it's a little bit weird, and it's it's Half-Life. It's such a huge franchise, to not have it in Game of the Year, and the fact that I think they absolutely earned it is a bit strange. But I think it's because it's locked in that weird VR area. I think that's the issue. And as I look forward to, because they're going to tackle Half-Life 3 now. Do they stick to VR? Because that's what made Alex so special, and they're able to innovate and push the hardware and push what you can do. That's really what Valve, at least with Half-Life, that's what they wait for. From going from 1 to 2, they waited for that crazy advanced physics engine that they have, and that was a huge milestone to see that in gaming. And then with the way that they did it, and then going from the way they push VR and innovated in VR for Half-Life Alex, it's like they wait for these innovations. So it'd almost be a step back to go back into 2D unless they have this insane revamp to the engine for Half-Life 3. So I'm wondering what they do, because if they stick to VR, it limits the actual ability to sell the game. But they're really not concerned about money at all. They have enough. They want to be pushing always the genre forward. So it's going to be interesting to see what they decide on doing.
Yeah. Hopefully they'll do something.
Hopefully it'll do something. Yes. All right, Callum. We'll end it there. Our top games of the year and the episode in general. Where can they find you on the interwebs?
You can find me on Twitter moaning about PS5 orders at Bear Monroe.
And you'll find me celebrating my PS5 in my home with my family on Twitter as well. Keep up with the show there at Plastic Heart Pod. That's it for us this week. We'll see you guys next week. Bye-bye.